Well, thanks, everybody. My name is Dr. Ben Granger. I'm a senior principal of employee experience at Qualtrics. And joining me today is Siddh Magia. He manages our technical sales team at Qualtrics. And we're excited to show you a little bit about our employee experience platform. So at Qualtrics, we are hyper-focused on this concept of experience management. And we define this as a discipline that organizations use to collect and use both experience and operational data to help measure and improve the employee experience. And central to that definition of experience management is this idea of having both experience data and operational data, or as we like to call it, X and O data. So what exactly is X and O data? Well, O data is what our organizations already have tons of. We have mountains of data that tell us what is happening within our organization, from employee performance data to attrition and turnover data to offer acceptance rates of candidates. What organizations have much less of is what we call X data or experience data. This is the data of attitudes, beliefs, ideas, feelings of employees. And historically, X data has been much more time-consuming and challenging to collect. And so what we end up with is organizations that have tons of operational data. They understand what's happening, but they have very less or relatively less data telling them why is that happening. So that's what we are focused on at Qualtrics, is helping to design a system and a solution to help organizations measure experience data of their employees in a more modern way. So today, our presentation is going to focus on three principles that make a strong, modern employee experience data system. The first is that it's people-centric. It's focused on the experiences of the employees themselves. In other words, we ask them for their feedback at times that matter to them, as opposed to only surveying employees when it's convenient for the organization. The second is that it's directly actionable. So these systems collect this raw data from employees and they turn it into actionable insights. And then my favorite, finally, grounded in science and practice. So we're going to start with the first pillar, and Siddh's going to show you some techniques and ideas for how you can make an experience data system that is more people-centric.
Perfect. Thanks, Ben. All right, so as Ben mentioned, we really want to meet employees in a system that they're familiar with, that they use on a regular basis. Qualtrics has really revolutionized this idea of collection of feedback. You know, surveys shouldn't really feel like surveys. They should feel more like conversations. And they should be triggered in moments that matter for the employees. So imagine now I'm logged in into my company intranet or my company portal, and I see this little feedback slider. This really provides a great way for companies to allow employees to give feedback in a very non-intrusive way. And so this is an example of what we refer to as a pull. A pull is the idea of providing employees a way to voice their concern, share their opinion, or give feedback, again, at a time that's convenient to them, at moments that matter for them. So it is my 30th day at this company, and so you can see that an onboarding feedback has been triggered in my little feedback slider to really improve that onboarding experience. But it looks like the company has also triggered a quarterly pulse survey. So I can take that. We recently just went through an open enrollment. So the company really wants to understand what we can improve from an open enrollment perspective next year. And lastly, since Qualtrics has a purpose-built 360 solution, I'm able to request feedback from my colleagues, from my manager, and really get some personal development report so I can improve my skills and advance my career. So these are just a few different examples of how we can collect feedback across different moments that matter for a specific employee. And by the way, we also have contact frequency rules to make sure that we don't over-survey an individual. So that was a great example of what we refer to as a pull. But sometimes it's necessary to have a push, sort of an intercept for employees as well. And while we can trigger surveys based on employee milestone, it's also important to be able to trigger surveys using operational data, because it really allows you to personalize that X data collection for that individual employee. In this case, I am a call center agent, and this is my call center system. How about getting some feedback after the first 10 calls that this agent has logged?
So these are really simple examples of how we can meet employees where they are in the natural flow of their work. And that's exactly the point, is that X data collection doesn't always have to be so formal. A lot of times it could be very simple and seamless. So let's move to the second pillar, directly actionable. And this principle is all about how we collect all of that raw feedback from employees and we turn it into directly actionable insights that leaders can use to make a difference.
All right. Perfect. So the Qualtrics mobile feed really makes it easy for executives and managers to really gain some valuable insights across all of the different moments of employee experience. We looked at a call center agent giving us feedback earlier. Now imagine I'm logged in as a call center director and I'm on the move. The company recently did a pulse survey, and the system shows me a notification on my phone that the pulse survey results are ready. So with a simple tap, it brings me into what we refer to as the feed. The feed really is the idea that a single space using business intelligence and machine learning to show prescriptive insights for that specific manager. So here I'm able to see the latest pulse results, and I can also compare it to the previous time that we ran the survey. But since Qualtrics also has the largest normative database, I'm also able to compare my scores to the industry overall. On the bottom, since typically call centers see high risk of attrition, it's also prioritizing that notification within my feed. It looks like we have a high attrition risk, so I'll come back to that. But really, the idea here is that the feed doesn't only show you insights from a single project. It really shows you insight across all of different projects within your employee measurement program. This nugget here is from your exit survey. It looks like we're losing a lot of employees to our biggest competitor, Hooli. On the bottom, it's also showing me that it looks like we have new hire engagement issues, and the scores are really below the industry benchmark. But the system is also built to take action. So let's go ahead and take some action on this. What I really want to do is I want to send a notification to the new hire manager to really take a look at this and see what's happening. It's just that simple. Now, let's go back and focus on the attrition risk. Obviously, it's very high. So a simple tap will bring me into the attrition risk scorecard. And this really gives me some additional data, trends over time and things like that. But what I really want to focus on here is this little icon across the top with the little circles. This is really showing that our text analysis is ready, and this is really where you're going to be able to get the richest insights, really identify what are some of the underlying issues that's causing this attrition risk to be so high. So this is what our text analytics engine looks like, and it's powered by Qualtrics Text IQ. Qualtrics Text IQ is really using natural language processing and analyzing thousands of comments from all of the employees that are at high risk of turnover, and it's bucketing all of those comments into specific topics and sentiment. The bigger the circle, the more popular that topic is. So clearly it looks like training and development is the most popular topic. But we also see a lot of red there, which means that there's a lot of negative sentiment about training and development. So let's drill into that a little bit. So this is where it's going to show me a little bit more information, my subtopics, really identify what employees are talking about when they talk about training and development. I can also look at some of the actual comments, and it looks like lack of training opportunities, as well as new hire training and intern training seems to be an issue. So in three simple clicks, we're able to really understand what could be causing this high attrition risk at the organization. Now, we looked at the executive view, right? The call center director view, and we sent a notification earlier to our manager to really identify what's causing a low engagement scores amongst our new hires. So now I'm logged in as a manager on my desktop, and Qualtrics is really built to be action-oriented. So managers don't really have to go in and sift through all of the information and try to figure out what actions they should be taking. Qualtrics provides proactive insights and provides you with focus areas and opportunities where you can take action. In this case, it looks like there are good opportunities for career progression at this company is really an area that we can work on. But we don't just stop there. We take it a step further, where managers can really understand with recommended tips on what they can do to improve in this particular area. Furthermore, after reviewing these tips, maybe they want to create an action plan. With this action planning tool, Qualtrics will also suggest action plans based on the data that's coming in. So you can see there's 3 suggested action plans. So at this point, the manager can either create or use one of these suggested action plans or create their own action plan as well. The great thing here is if your company has spent time, energy, resources, investment in developing learning resources, training documents, etc., all of that could be linked here as well. For example, an internal action planning guide.
So compare that experience to what managers are used to, where you give them a 20-page report that says, hey, figure out what this is telling about your team, and then create an action plan. It's a very different experience. So let's move to the final principle, which is my favorite as a scientist. And you saw some cool tech from us, you saw some cool tech from providers, but none of that's going to mean anything if your program, your listening program, is not founded in strong science and best practice. And in the past, a lot of that best practice, that strong science, came from people like me, from consultants. And to some degree, that's never going to change. That's always going to be a necessary part of these types of experience data programs. However, as organizations are moving toward more frequent experience listening, more frequent surveying, it's necessary to run those at scale. And so we're going to close out with 2 very quick examples of how we are trying to build a system that allows organizations to scale this expertise and this best practice.
Great. So what you're seeing here is what we refer to as XM solutions. XM solutions are really pre-built templates with validated content, best practice methodology, really strong methodology and survey designs and dashboards, as well as pre-configured distributions. And so these are just a few different examples of what XM solutions we've built so far, but our engineering team is also building more and more XM solutions, so you can very quickly launch these projects and grow at scale. Now, in situations where organizations want to create a custom survey or a custom program, we also have a capability called expert review. Think about expert review as something that provides real-time feedback on your surveys and provides specific suggestions on how to improve them. So for instance, it's checking for grammatical errors. It's checking for whether the logic, display logic and skip logic, all of that is sound. Are your questions optimized for mobile? Are there any incomplete translations? What is the data quality is going to be like based on the surveys or the questions that you're asking? It's also going to do some compliance and confidentiality check to make sure that we're protecting the privacy of your employees. This really allows organizations to build new ways to deploy new projects at scale.
And make people like me obsolete, obviously. So we hope that these principles resonated with you, and we really appreciate your time and attention today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.